Hey, everybody. Yay. It's day 5. If you have been with me for the whole 5 days, let me just clear this up. If you've been with me for the whole 5 days, thank you. I hope that you've found it really uplifting and actually, you know, making it feel doable. Now, I'm just going to tell people that I'm live on the messenger thread and navigate to the page. Here we go. Now, if you're joining me, please say hi. Would love to see you. Okay, here we go. And for those asking, I haven't kept up with the comments in the last 24 hours because it went a bit nutso, which is awesome and I love it. I'm going to get to that later today. But for those asking about my daughter, she's actually doing really well. We thought that it was going to be fractured. We actually were told that it was fractured, but turns out it's not. It's just heavily bruised and she's actually improved heaps in the last 24 hours. So she's doing so good. Okay. Just getting all the tech set up. Okay. Now, just while I'm just trying to communicate to people that I'm live, I am just going to grab the link and pop it in there. 1 second, because I've got some people saying they can't find me. So let's sort that out. Okay, we're good to go. So how's everyone been feeling about the challenge so far? We've had 4 days of pretty epic education, but also just some self-reflection, some self-awareness going on. And how's everyone feeling now? I know if you've been following along, you've got your personalized protein intake target according to your own particular needs. And you've also figured out how much you're already eating a day. And then kind of that difference might be staring you in the face a little bit. It's been nice to see that some people are actually already like pleasantly surprised so that they are actually already hitting their protein intake target, which is awesome. And then some people are feeling quite overwhelmed, like how on earth am I ever going to hit that target? And so yesterday we spoke into that and I gave you heaps of high protein meal ideas and lots of recipes as well. I know that the links in the Facebook post aren't working. Facebook is just glitching. So very early this morning, I dumped it all into a Google Doc and I've linked that now in the Facebook group. So you should be able to get everything nice and easily and do yesterday's homework, which was basically create a day on a plate for yourself that meets your personal target. With all the ideas that I gave you and also some of your own, you can create something that actually feels attainable for you. I'm going to give you an example of one at the end of today's presentation of one that's in one of the special needs groups that's really high. And that it doesn't even feel like to me a heavy intake. A lot of people feel like to reach that amount of protein, it's just so much food to eat that they'll never be able to eat that much food. But I hope that when you see my example of a day on a plate that I put together for, I think it's almost 130 grams of protein. There aren't many people in the group who need that much, but it still looks quite light. So hopefully you'll agree with me with that. Jordana says lots of thinking and lots of planning. Oh, I like that. When Cheryl said, good to know that I won't need to have protein powder every day. Just need to add something extra to my meals and better protein snacks. Yes, Cheryl, we don't all need a protein shake or a protein powder or a whey protein and collagen. Like that's not a need that everybody has. And I think it's this, like, even though I'm about to release a protein blend for those people who do need it, I, for not 1 second, am going to say that everyone needs to have it. And we're going to actually today talk about the dangers of having too much protein. And we just need to be informed. We need to be aware of this stuff. So, you ready to get into it? All right. So, today is entitled, here we go. It's not all about protein. I think it's very apt for today. I just want everyone to remember that even though we've had all this talk about how important protein is, and it is, just remember that there are other wonderful nutrients that we need as well, macro and micronutrients. So let's just not get too obsessive about protein. It's very healthy to get this awareness that we've been doing this week, very beneficial. But let's just remember to kind of once we have that awareness and we have that newfound ability to meet around about that protein intake target regularly, can we let go of all the numbers then? Can we just kind of let go about thinking so much about protein? Let's do it for this little window of time and then let go. We need to just eat a wide variety of nutrient dense whole food, like the ideal, right? Like that's what we want to shoot for. And if we do that, we avoid the pitfall of extreme dietary practices and focusing. Instead, we focus on overall nutritional balance. And today we get to talk about that. And I love talking about that. So we've had some people asking about, like, how do I know if I've got too little or too much protein? Let's do that. Okay, the human body does have this limited capacity to store and recycle this little pool of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, right? And that's how our body can sort of maintain essential functions for a short period of time if we're not getting enough protein in. But if we then go for a long period of time without adequate protein, then it can lead to some negative effects over time. So first we're talking about what happens when we get too little protein, and then we're going to go into too much protein. And I'll try to get through this quite quickly because I've had to double up on content for today. So I'm going to I'll fly through. So some of those things about too little protein is this suboptimal muscle health. So like I said, we can't store a large amount of protein, and our body will actually eat our muscle if we don't get enough protein. So our body can store fat, our body can store carbs, but something that we can't store a whole lot of is protein. And so it's something that we need to eat regularly, like I keep saying, a little bit regularly each day in order to just keep functioning optimally. And so considering the hardships that the human race have gone through in our history, it wouldn't make much sense if skipping a day or two of protein intake caused some grave health concern. That's not the case. But our body has developed these clever ways of getting the nutrients we need when we don't get enough. And in a pinch, one of the ways that our body does that is it actually gets our amino acids that we need from our tissue protein, which is our muscle. And so, yeah, when we don't get enough protein, our body will start to eat its own muscle. This process is known as muscle catabolism, not cannibalism. And I say eat a bit loosely, a bit tongue in cheek. But the reason it does this is not because your body is malfunctioning at all. Your body is freaking amazing. It knows exactly what it's doing, and it just prioritizes the maintenance of vital functions over preserving muscle mass. Makes sense though, right? And so if we consistently don't consume enough protein, then yes, our body may start to break down our muscle and we get weaker muscles. So that's one of the things that happens if we don't get enough fatigue. We could have some subtle fatigue. Inadequate protein can contribute to that low lying energy and fatigue. And while that may not be solely due to, not enough protein, it can become more apparent if we go for a long time without enough protein. Nope, we've done that one. Impaired recovery. Look, if you're doing a lot of exercise and strength-based training, then you might experience a slower recovery rate and more susceptibility to injury if you don't have enough immune system. We know about this one. We've spoken about this one. We can become more susceptible to infections if we're not having enough protein. Hair and skin changes. Our hair can become brittle. Our skin becomes less elastic, and it just changes in overall appearance. I wanted to get onto this one because this is one that we haven't spoken about too much. So eating too much protein is not actually harmless. Like there are some things that we need to keep in mind. So first I'm going to talk about what happens, and then I'm going to talk about how we can tell if we're getting too much. So the first one is weight challenges, which might come as a surprise because as one of the benefits of protein or the roles of protein that I spoke about, we talked about how protein can help us with managing our weight because it increases our satiety, it reduces our hunger and cravings, and boosts our metabolism. So how then is it a risk of gaining weight if we're having too much protein? It's because when we consume more protein than what our body needs. Our body, like I said, can't store it. And so we have to do something with it. And our body has two choices. It can, one, convert it to fat, or two, it can eliminate it through our kidneys. And we're about to talk about kidneys in a minute. And so protein rich food, especially animal based protein rich foods, are often quite dense in calories as well. So there's a chance that we might just overconsume according to what our energy requirements are. So that's why we start to have weight challenges with too much protein. Straining on the kidneys, this is one that I was actually talking with my mum about today because she's just come out of hospital with kidney issues. And so we were having this chat about, what landed her there and all the rest of it. And we said, have you thought about if you're having too much protein? This is one of the reasons that can happen. And so, like I said, because we can't store the protein, our body has a choice. One, convert excess protein to fat, or two, send it to the kidneys basically to deal with. And the kidneys have to do quite a lot, and it can withstand like the occasional big influx of excess protein. But if we've got constant high intake of protein, it can kind of just lead our kidney to go, oh, there's too much and I'm just tired. I'm going to go kaput. And it can lead to kidney malfunction. And so research has actually looked at this. So we've looked at adherence to this high protein diet and how it can damage our kidneys. But interestingly, it's not all protein. Protein from animal sources can lead to that chronic kidney disease, whilst protein from plants appears absolutely benign when it comes to kidney damage. So isn't that interesting? I'm not vegan, but I do love to eat plants. I have a bit of both, but it's interesting to be mindful of not just going too heavy on the animal sourced protein. Having a balance is really important. So the other one is nutrient imbalance. So obviously, if we're going to rely heavily, yeah, isn't it interesting, Georgiana? Yeah. If we're going to rely heavily on protein, on it, some protein sources, some protein sources just don't have a huge array of other nutrients. We're just going to rely on one protein source and not a diverse range of protein sources. The chances of us creating a nutritional imbalance in our bodies becomes a lot higher. And so, just as you've probably heard me bang on and on and on about in years past, about the importance of diversity in fiber, about the importance of diversity in nutrients, we also just need to talk about the diversity of protein sources. Don't just rely on one. Like, don't just get your favorite whey powder or your chicken breast or something and just rely on that every single day. It's just not going to give you the vast array of amino acids you need or the other nutrients. Yeah. Okay, now the other one is swelling. This is a bit of a telltale sign. So lack of protein can cause the balance of fluids and electrolytes in the body to kind of go off balance, can lead to fluid retention, basically, and swellings. Dehydration is another one where the breakdown of protein in the body produces nitrogen, which the kidneys then need to eliminate, and that process requires water. So that can potentially lead to some dehydration if your fluid intake isn't increasing with your protein. And lastly, bone health. So a really high protein intake, again, especially from animal sources, can disrupt the body's acid base and it can lead to osteoporosis and bone decline, basically. Now, I know that there's a couple of women in the group who have specifically said, actually more than a couple, have specifically said that their doctors have told them that they're kind of on the track for osteoporosis and that they need to really hone in on their bone health. And protein, yeah, and so that's one of the reasons they've joined the protein challenge, looking for ways to increase their protein to help their bone health. One just word of caution I want to say to you ladies is that I'm not telling you to go vegan. That's not my job. That's not what I'm here for. And I'm not even vegan. So don't think that I'm saying that. But I'm just saying, just be cautious of consuming too much animal protein and not a balance of both plant and animal. Does that make sense? What I want to touch on is this. There's this study, there's two studies I'm very quickly going to tell you about. It was a really big one. I won't bore you with all the names and the authors and everything, but it was a meta-analysis of 31 studies. So it's quite a big correlation of studies. And they looked at protein intake and disease. And it concluded that this overconsumption of protein was associated with higher rates of cancer, osteoporosis, renal or kidney disease, liver decline, heart disease. big ones, right? With like 5 big prevalent diseases that we have in our society. But the kicker is this, that those negative health associations of eating too much protein were reduced or eliminated if the protein came from plants. Mind blowing, isn't it? And then another study pretty much just backed that up. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into all those details, but it basically said the same thing. And so was a quote from that said, convincing evidence that a high protein diet, particularly if the proteins are derived from animals, is nearly as bad as smoking for your health. Isn't that crazy? And then it went on to say this, and this is what I want you guys to focus on. Incorporating a variety of protein sources into your diet, including both whey, protein, and seeds, can contribute to overall amino acid intake and provide a diverse range of nutrients. Diversity, folks. That's just what we keep on talking about. And it's just this is a principle that applies in nature, in our rainforest. It applies in our gut, in our microbiome. It applies in our culture. It applies everywhere. Diversity is just the bee's knees. The other quote that was here is the risk of cardiovascular death steadily fell with greater consumption of protein from nuts and seeds. Okay, now here we go. How do we know we're getting that? So now we kind of know the benefits. We know the dangers. Like, how do we know where we sit? Let's go. Number one, digestive issues. If we have too much protein, particularly from animal sources, again, not too much from plants, may lead us to digestive problems such as constipation, bloating, and discomfort. The other one is just individual tolerance. Like some people will tolerate a higher protein intake well, while others might have trouble with it. So just like I keep saying to pay attention to how your body responds as you increase that protein. And I would suggest increasing gradually, just as we recommend with fiber as well. Now, what we do know is that we're buffeted by this concept of satiety. I never know how to say that properly out loud, but protein rich foods, like we've spoken about, are often more satisfying than other macronutrients like carbs and fats. And so, if we are listening to our bodies and we're not overeating past the point where we're at the hormone that tells us that we're full tells us that we're full. If we stop, then and if we're getting our protein from a wide variety of whole food sources, then it's likely that we're going to naturally feel full before we get to the point of consuming excess amounts of protein. So did you get that? That was a good safety net just for peace of mind. So if we're listening to our cues of hunger and fullness, and we're eating a diverse range of whole food sourced protein, then we're likely just we're going to feel full before we get to the point where we've got too much in our system. Now, there are some groups of people that are at higher risk of overdoing it on protein, and there's two of them. The first are those on a carnivore diet. I'm not going to say that there's not a place for a carnivore diet. Personally, I agree with Kirsty Worth, the gut expert from Cultured Wellness. I interviewed her, and one of the questions was about the carnivore diet. And she agreed that it has a place if you've got a highly inflamed gut and you want to work at healing your gut. There might be a time where you introduce a carnivore diet for a short period of time to give your gut a break because it's easier to digest. And then you bring in but the important thing is that she said it's very important to bring back in those plant-based foods so that you've got all the other nutrients that you need and that your gut can thrive on all that fiber, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a high risk group. And if you're on a carnivore diet, just be in contact with your medical professional. Just make sure you're getting your tests done. Make sure that you're being monitored on it. Yeah. And those with kidney issues, like my mama, she just got out of the hospital and like she's in a high risk group because of her kidney issues. So just consult with your healthcare professional if that's you. All right. So it's not just about protein. Here's the deal, you guys. Even if we're focusing on protein intake, there are some things that need to happen in our body for our body to absorb that protein. So I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about, okay, so now we understand protein. But our body is this amazingly complex, beautiful thing that actually uses a whole range of things at once to make something happen. And so, yes, we're getting the protein in, but then what happens? We actually need to synthesize that protein. We need to do a whole bunch of stuff to actually utilize that protein. We need to break it down to amino acids and do some wonderful things. And so we need some other nutrients to make that happen. And so this is why we talk about diversity of nutrients. We talk about not relying on one source of food because it doesn't give us everything we need to be able to even process the protein that we're eating. So we just go back to basics all the time. Just eat real food. Just eat a whole diverse range of whole foods and you'll be fine, right? And so as long as we're mindful, like we have an awareness, like I keep talking about. Now, what I want to talk about is this. Here are some nutrients that we need to absorb protein. So I'm going to fly through these. B6, essential for the metabolism of amino acids and oh my gosh, synthesizing neurotransmitters. Now, this is where I'm going to introduce, you know, that I'm launching the new protein blend this weekend. And I've done a heck of a lot of research to make sure that it's well balanced and it's doing everything it needs to. And so these are the nutrients we need. And now this is the percentage of our recommended daily intake that we get from the blend of that nutrient. So, and remember that RDI is the baseline. So I didn't take the higher ones because I wasn't sure who was going by what level. So look, it's just the RDI. So you adjust it to according to whatever your level is. But if you make the blend, so the blend is done for you. You don't add anything except for frozen banana and a cup of water. That's it. It's sweet enough. It's got everything else in there that you need. And so if you make it on water, cow's milk, or soy milk, either one of those they're the three that I'll be talking about, then it gives you like over half of your B6 that you need for the day. Bearing in mind, again, it's the recommended daily intake, which is just to avoid, just to avoid not enough. I can't think of the word. You know what I'm talking about. And vitamin B12, there's nothing in the blend that it has. B12 is basically just animal product. And so the only way you're going to get vitamin B12 from the blend is through cow's milk. It's not through the blend itself. So it's half of that. Folate is 15% from the blend. Iron is needed to absorb protein as well and to benefit from protein. And we get and bear in mind that this protein blend is actually not a meal. It's a snack. If you've had our smoothies before, you know they're robust and hefty and solid. That's a big nutritious meal. This protein shake is a snack. It's it's watery. It's not like well, not watery, but it's not like a smoothie where it's super thick. It's a lot thinner and it's just easy to consume and it goes down. It's just a snack. And so to get 27% of your iron from a snack is awesome. Same with zinc, and there are the measurements there. And copper is quite a lot of copper, which is really good because that helps us absorb all the nutrients that we need. Calcium, vitamin D is basically from the sunshine, guys. We just need to get out in the sun, like we spoke about the other day, or eat fatty fish, but ideally both. Vitamin C is another nutrient we need to absorb protein. Selenium is another one. And if you're concerned about selenium, guys, start your day with one Brazil nut. So this blend will give you about 13 to 22% of your selenium needs. But if you have one Brazil nut, that's going to give you about 100% of your needs if you're having it as well. So that's what I do. I literally wake up and I walk to the kitchen, even if I'm bleary eyed, and I will have my Brazil nut and a couple of other things we can talk about some other time. But that is a fantastic way to make sure you've got enough selenium so that you can make glutathione and you can absorb your protein. It's really awesome. Magnesium, you guys, you get loads of magnesium just in this one little snack protein shake. The other one is omega-3 fatty acids that we need to absorb our protein. And lastly, we actually need antioxidants. And do you know why? I think this is really interesting. The reason that we need antioxidants is that protein is targeted by free radicals. And I think that makes sense. Now that we know the role of protein, it makes sense that free radicals would target protein because if it gets our protein, then it's going to be really difficult for us to grow and progress and keep strong in our immune system and do all the things, right? And so we need antioxidants to neutralize those free radicals. That's one of the reasons that I've added cacao powder and zinc to the protein. The last one is super interesting. We need adequate supply of protein itself. So protein why can't I say that word today? Synthesis. We need that for protein synthesis and to maintain nitrogen balance in the body. And so here's what you've probably been waiting for to know. So the protein blend itself, if made on water, just a cup of water, delivers 22 grams of protein. And if you make it on cow's milk, it's 30. And if you make it on soy milk, it's 32. That's pretty awesome. I was super excited when I figured out the number. So that is a great boost. So would that help you reach your target is the question. And again, I just want to reiterate that not everybody is going to need a protein blend. And I don't want it, like one of the reasons that I resisted making a protein blend for so many years of people requesting it, a decent one. I didn't want to be part of the industry that sort of fed everyone this lie that you need to be having a whey-based protein powder and this and that. Like you don't have to. If you are really conscious of what you're eating and you're aware of it and you get into a rhythm and it takes time, it doesn't happen overnight. But if you take the time to learn about food and feel into how your body feels, like you can get what you need from food. But for those people who just need a bit of a boost in the interim, or their life is so full, they just can't put the headspace into it and they need a hand to have a clean, fantastic blend, then that's why I'm excited to bring this one to you. Okay, so here is a bit of a day on plate for those people who are feeling like your target is just too high and it's not realistic for you to do it. So let's say yesterday we talked about how to make a smoothie that's 30 grams of protein. And it wasn't even complicated, was it? It wasn't. Go back on yesterday's video if you're not sure, and I'll show you there how to make your smoothie 30 grams of protein that's in a simple way. Then if you have a morning snack, sort of mid-morning, just a small handful of nut would be about 8 grams. And then if you have, say, a burrito bowl for lunch, that's 20 grams. Then if you have a protein shake on soy milk, that's 32. And then for dinner, if you just have one salmon fillet and a cup of salad, that's a light dinner. That's 28 grams. And then for dessert, something that our family have been loving, which I shared yesterday, is that a small serve of jelly. It's like the dark yellow jelly that I shared the recipe with you with is 4 grams. So that's a total of 122. Now, of course, you can play with that. Like, what if you swapped out the nuts or the jelly for a cup of Greek yogurt? That's like 20 something grams right there. Like, obviously, there are many different combinations that you can use. That's one example of a day on a plate. And that is an example of your homework for yesterday. I know there's not as many people doing the homework from yesterday as there were the days before because it requires a little bit of thought and a little bit of time to go, okay, now this and this make that. So I encourage you, do it today. I'm going to draw the winner tonight. So you've got today, make your day on a plate. You can make this one or you can make something of your own. So guys, that's my last slide there. Watch this space because later today, I'm going to release the protein blend. Everyone's saying, love the sound of the protein blend as it includes nutrients essential for synthesis. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad you can see the vision. That was my vision. I did not want to just throw something out to market that was just a big hit of protein, but nothing else in it. And often, as you all would know, there's so much gunk in other ones as well. Often, not always. But I'm going to go through all the details of it very soon. I'm going to be active in here over the weekend. I'm going to do a Q&A tomorrow. And there were some things that I didn't get time to cover in the 5-day challenge. So I'm going to sort of find some time to cover that later on. But tonight I will release the link to the pre-sale for the protein blend. It is in the works. So did today help with sort of talking about, how do we know if it's too much? And then also keeping in mind balance between plant-based protein and animal-based protein, and not relying just on animal-based and like the risks associated with only relying on animal-based protein. The protein in the blend I'm releasing, the protein component, like there's 22 grams just in the blend and then more if you add soy milk or cow milk, right? But the protein is half coming from plant sources and half coming from collagen. And so it really does focus on that diversity and the balance between the two. Cool. So I hope today was helpful in realizing that, yeah, like protein's fantastic and important, but there are a vast array of other things that we need to consider, but also not to get hung up on. Like I said, we just need to stick to basics, just eat real food, eat a diverse range of whole foods, and you can't go wrong. The whole week has been fantastic information. Yay. I'm so happy that you think so. And Cheryl said so interesting. Guys, thank you so much for being here with me. It makes it fun for me when you guys participate, and you guys have thrown yourselves in this week, and I love it. Thank you. All right. I will see you later on today. Have a great day. Your only homework today, you guys, is your only homework today is to follow through on yesterday's homework. I want to really make sure you guys can make it, that it feels doable for you. And the only way that it's going to feel doable for you is if you think it through and go, you just choose the meals that you can have on just one day, just a snapshot of one day, if you like, of what you can do to meet your personal protein intake target. Okay. So that's your job today. Post it in the group what your plan is, and you'll go in the draw to win a 1.2 kilo bag of chocolate protein blend. And I'll be back to talk about what that is like later. Okay. Have a great day. Bye, guys.